Hello there and welcome back to another edition of the Hot Lab Classic Remastered. This time take a look at the 1997 Plymouth PT Spyder. A very strange concept car from the 90s out of Plymouth, a brand that, well, would basically see out the 90s and then be dead. It's a car from the PT range, but unlike the other PT car, it's not horrendous looking. This was essentially a mid-engined, rear-wheel drive, two-seat sports car, 2.4 litre supercharged inline 4 engine. It almost looks production ready. I'm quite surprised this one didn't happen. It's one of the weird ones that didn't. I suppose in later years, cars like the Saturn Sky would sort of prove why maybe this wasn't such a good idea, because that didn't sell anything, so leave it to the MR2s and stuff. Speaking of MR2s, it statistically shouldn't be particularly great. Mid-engine rear-wheel drive, only 253 horsepower, 1,127 kilos. We'll see how it gets along, although I'm not expecting a lot. This car is going to get 6 laps of the Motorsports Land track in order to set the best time it possibly can. Our current leader is the Toyota Sleeker Rally car, which set a time of 27.552. This car is unlikely to beat that. Very. In terms of stuff for this to go against, MGF 32.029, sort of similar statistics. I mean, you could maybe argue what was better engineered, a Plymouth or an MG for a long time, so we won't get into that debate just now, but yeah, somewhere around there might be okay. The one interesting thing with this car is I believe it had, I can't remember what the body shell was made of, but it was made of a very strange material from what I remember, which could be why they didn't put it in production, although, okay, that was interesting, which could be why they didn't put it into production, although, I mean, I don't know how difficult it would have been to just change that around, but again, Plymouth had not a lot of money. I guess 1997 they decided it would be better to put the Prowler into production, which, considering how much of a sort of cult following the Prowler would go on to get and how much more mental the Prowler looks than the PT Spyder, I guess it would make sense from like a financial point of view to put into production the Prowler. And of course, for those of you who don't know, also presented at this auto show, 31.816, it does beat the MG. Also presented at, well, I'm not sure if it was this auto show, but in this year, the Pronto Cruiser, I think it was called at the time, debuted, which would eventually go on to be the Chrysler PT Cruiser. Plymouth, I think, actually, to be fair, Plymouth might have lived long enough to see the PT Cruiser come out, but of course the PT Cruiser would eventually be a Chrysler. So, I guess if they put the PT Spyder into action, would have been interesting to see what this would have ended up as. I mean, would this have died with Plymouth, or would a Chrysler try to rebadge it as Chrysler, or even as a Dodge, maybe? Yeah, it's a bit weird. Chrysler was a bit mental with concept cars at this time, and also, to be fair, Polyphony really wanted to put lots of them in the game. Of course, we had the PT Spyder, but we also have the Copperhead, or the concept car, which was essentially a V6 Viper, which is another one where I don't really understand why they never put the concept car into production. I mean, they would have had to change the bodywork because it looked a bit stupid, but yeah, I don't know. Dodge was, I said Dodge, entire Chrysler division at this time was just very weird. You know, they built a lot of sports cars and stuff like that, but they also just didn't do a whole lot. 31.530 puts it in a pretty interesting spot. Unfortunately, it's another tie. I keep getting these ties at the moment. I hate ties on our leaderboard, but yeah, not bad to drive. It's actually better than 253 horsepower and how much weight it's got would suggest. It just means it's a car that's like... It actually looks a little bit like the ME412. I wonder if that might be sort of what this got turned into a little bit. But another car that wouldn't get put into production for good reason as well, that one. But yeah, good. Pretty good. It's a car you're not going to get much use out of in the game, because beyond the base game events it just doesn't have enough power, but it's not bad. That with a bit more poke in it, like a turbocharger, probably would be a lot better. Apparently there's a bit of lap time to come out of that. I don't think there is, if I'm being honest. I think that's sort of right around where the ceiling of this car should be, but it's not bad at all. 31.530 puts it into 198th place. It ties with the Renault Megane Coupe, and interestingly, just beats the front-wheel drive Lotus Elan from the 90s, so... yeah, that's interesting. As I mentioned, it's like 0.5 up on the MGF and the MR Spyder and the MR2G Limited thing, so it's quicker than all the MR2s, basically, other than the Nutter Turbo ones. That's pretty good. I'm trying to think of other stuff to really compare this to. It beats it sort of Chrysler brethren, the Dodge Avenger, terrible car. It does beat that, so yeah, it's alright. I mean, for a sort of low-end roadster, it's not bad. Stuff like the Turbo MR2s and the MX-5s are definitely better choices. But if you're comparing this to like an Elise, it ain't half bad. I'd rather drive this than an Elise, 100%. Anyways, that is it for this episode. Thank you all very much for watching. Join me next time on I've driven something completely different. Until then, farewell.
Knowing just where my hopes and dreams are going. I won't let you back. Got up in a wall that you are not part of. Eyes on the slit of your father.